When the Cathani made first contact with Earth, they arrived with all the grace of a drunken butterfly in a windstorm. Their massive vessel, gleaming like liquid mercury in the morning sun, wobbled and swayed as it descended through Earth's atmosphere, performing what could only be described as an interpretive dance routine in the sky. Dr. Rohan Patel watched from the roof of the Stanford Physics Institute, his weathered hands gripping the railing as the alien ship pirouetted past their defense systems. As Earth's leading expert in gravitational physics, he couldn't help but wince at the vessel's erratic movements. 20 years of studying the fundamental forces of the universe hadn't prepared him for this peculiar display. Greetings, Earthbound beings. The message boomed across global communication channels. We are the Cathani, masters of anti-gravitational technology, here to liberate you from your primitive attachment to gravitational forces. The ship attempted what might have been meant as an impressive landing maneuver, instead managing to bounce twice on its own anti-gravity field before settling into an awkward hover 10 feet above the ground. The United Nations hastily convened an emergency session, and Dr. Patel found himself summoned to New York within hours. Ambassador Nixis of the Cathani made quite an entrance at the UN, literally floating through the ceiling because apparently, doors were beneath their species both figuratively and literally. The ambassador's crystalline form sparkled under the chamber lights, tendrils of energy writhing around their body in what Patel recognized as localized gravity distortions. Your species' dependence on gravity is charming, Nixis announced, their voice resonating with what could only be described as technological smugness. Like watching infants crawl before learning to walk. We've evolved beyond such limitations. As if to demonstrate, several Cathani delegates began performing aerial acrobatics above the General Assembly. The display might have been more impressive if one of them hadn't gotten tangled in the chandelier, sending crystalline shards of their environmental suit scattering across the chamber floor. Perhaps, Dr. Patel suggested, rising from his seat, we could discuss this on more equal footing. He gestured to the ground, where most of Earth's delegation watched with a mixture of concern and barely concealed amusement. Equal footing. Nixis chuckled, the sound reminiscent of wind chimes in a storm. Why limit yourself to 2 dimensions when you can experience the freedom of 3? The ambassador attempted to demonstrate by pouring water into a glass while inverted, creating an impromptu shower for the first 3 rows of Earth's diplomatic corps. Dr. Patel exchanged glances with the UN Secretary-General. Humanity had prepared for many first contact scenarios, hostile invasions, peaceful exchanges, even religious missionaries. Nobody had prepared for aliens who treated gravity like an optional party game and seemed to have the spatial awareness of caffeinated squirrels. As Patel watched another Cathani delegate accidentally propel themselves into the UN flag display, he realized someone would have to teach these aliens about gravity before they accidentally triggered an international incident. He pulled out his tablet, fingers flying across the screen as he began drafting a series of experiments. If the Cathani wanted to prove their superiority over gravity, he would give them that chance, along with a thorough education in the forces they claimed to have mastered. The Secretary-General approached him during the chaos of yet another anti-gravity mishap. Dr. Patel, we need someone to handle this situation. Someone with both the scientific knowledge and the patience to deal with our enthusiastic visitors. Patel watched as a junior Cathani diplomat attempted to demonstrate their mastery of Earth beverages by creating a floating sphere of coffee, only to lose control and create what could only be described as a caffeinated orbital system around their head. I'll do it, he said, already mentally designing demonstrations that would show these aliens exactly why gravity demanded respect. But I'll need access to several research facilities, a military aircraft, and possibly a submarine. A submarine? The Secretary-General raised an eyebrow. Trust me, Patel smiled, the same smile that had made his graduate students check their health insurance policies. They need to learn about pressure gradients the hard way. As the UN session devolved into further chaos, with Cathani delegates now attempting to play zero-gravity tag around the chamber, Patel began making calls. The world's most unusual physics lesson was about to begin, and he intended to make it one the Cathani would never forget. The challenge began in Dr. Patel's makeshift classroom at the UN, where the Cathani delegates bobbed around like helium balloons at a birthday party. He had converted the space into what he called his Gravity Appreciation Center, complete with various physics demonstration equipment and, more importantly, reinforced ceiling tiles. Today, he announced, pulling down a holographic display of Earth's gravitational field, we begin with the basics. He picked up a simple metal ball from his desk. Ambassador Nixus, floating upside down near the front of the room, made a dismissive gesture with their crystalline appendages. Basics? We mastered gravity manipulation while your species was still arguing about whether the Earth was flat, Nixus declared, their energy tendrils pulsing with pride. The other Cathani delegates chimed in with harmonious tones of agreement, creating what sounded like a smug wind chime orchestra. Indeed. Patel smiled, the kind of smile that had once preceded an infamous experiment involving quantum entanglement and two rubber ducks. Then perhaps you'd be interested in a friendly wager. The word wager caught the aliens' attention, causing several of them to bump into each other as they turned to face him. What sort of wager? Nixus asked, attempting to strike a dignified pose while slowly rotating sideways. A series of practical challenges, Patel explained, testing the true understanding and application of gravitational forces. If you prove your anti-gravity technology superior in all scenarios, we'll admit our primitive nature and gladly accept your guidance. And if you win? Nixus questioned, their crystalline form shimmering with curiosity. You share all your advanced technology with Earth, not just your anti-gravity devices. Patel held up the metal ball. Starting with understanding why this simple object holds more lessons than your entire anti-gravity system. The UN Security Council representatives, watching from the back of the room, exchanged nervous glances. Dr. Jasmine Kumar, Patel's colleague from CERN, leaned over to whisper, Rohan, are you sure about this? Remember the quantum rubber duck incident? Exactly, he whispered back, sometimes the best lessons come from spectacular failures. Then louder, to the aliens, shall we begin? The Cathani huddled together in a floating cluster, their crystalline bodies creating prismatic patterns on the walls as they discussed the proposal. Finally, Nixus descended to eye level with Patel, though they couldn't resist adding a little anti-gravity flourish to the movement. We accept your challenge, Earth scientist. Name your terms. Patel pulled out his tablet, displaying a series of locations around the globe. 7 tests, 7 different environments, each demonstrating a unique aspect of gravitational physics. From the depths of the ocean to the edge of space. Merely 7. Nixus scoffed. We could demonstrate our mastery in 1. Then this should be easy for you, Patel replied, watching as a junior Cathani attempted to drink from a water bottle and instead created a perfect sphere of floating water that began orbiting their head like a liquid satellite. The terms were drafted, reviewed, and signed by both parties. The UN Secretary-General looked increasingly concerned as she read through Patel's proposed curriculum, which seemed to combine advanced physics with extreme sports and possibly performance art. Dr. Patel, she pulled him aside, this list includes deep-sea diving, high-altitude parabolic flights, and something called gravitational bungee mathematics. Are you planning to teach physics or run a thrill-seeking adventure program? Why not both, he replied, watching as the Cathani delegates practiced what they called superior movement techniques but what looked more like anti-gravity parkour gone wrong. Sometimes the best way to learn is through controlled chaos. The next morning, Patel gathered his unusual class at a military airfield. The Cathani arrived in their environmental suits, which sparkled like diamond dust in the early sun. They watched with mild amusement as human skydivers checked their equipment. Your first lesson, Patel announced, standing at the cargo door of a military transport plane at 30,000 feet, is about terminal velocity in air resistance. Who would like to demonstrate their mastery of falling? Falling? Nixus laughed, their crystalline form vibrating with mirth. We don't fall. We control our descent with perfect precision. They activated their anti-gravity field, creating a shimmering bubble around themselves. Excellent, Patel smiled, checking his own parachute. Then you won't mind if we add some variables to the equation. He gestured to the storm front approaching from the west. Like, say, high-altitude winds and near-freezing temperatures. The Cathani's confidence wavered slightly as they noticed the dark clouds rolling in. Weather is irrelevant to our technology, Nixis declared, though their energy tendrils flickered uncertainly. We'll see, Patel said, stepping to the edge of the cargo door. Remember, the goal isn't just to reach the ground, it's to land precisely on the target zone while collecting atmospheric data. Shall we begin? As the first group of skydivers leapt from the plane, demonstrating perfect formation control, the Cathani watched with growing unease. Their anti-gravity fields, so impressive in controlled environments, were about to meet the raw power of Earth's atmosphere. The lesson in humility was about to begin, and Patel had a feeling it would be one they wouldn't soon forget. After you, he gestured to the open door, where the wind howled like a challenge. The Cathani exchanged glances, their crystalline forms glinting nervously in the high-altitude sun. The first test of their grand wager was about to begin, and already the laws of physics were waiting to teach them a lesson about respecting fundamental forces. The skydiving challenge ended exactly as Dr. Patel had predicted, with 3 Cathani delegates buried headfirst in snow drifts, their anti-gravity systems thoroughly humbled by the combination of high winds, freezing temperatures, and what Nixis grudgingly admitted might have been slight miscalculations in atmospheric density variables. Fascinating, Patel noted, helping to dig out a particularly disgruntled Cathani whose crystalline form now sparkled with frost. Would anyone care to explain what happened to your perfect gravitational control? Our systems experienced unexpected interference from your primitive atmospheric conditions, Nixis replied, attempting to maintain dignity while shaking snow from their energy tendrils. Or perhaps, Dr. Kumar suggested, recording data from their descent, you discovered that negating gravity doesn't equal controlling it. She displayed a holographic trajectory of their chaotic descent, which resembled a drawing made by a sugar-rushed toddler. But the skydiving debacle was just the beginning. Patel's next lesson took them to the Mariana Trench, where the Cathani learned about pressure gradients in the most dramatic way possible. Their anti-gravity fields, designed to counter gravitational forces, created unexpected pressure bubbles at depth. Observe, Patel commented from within the safety of the research submarine, as they watched several Cathani bounce between pressure layers like cosmic ping-pong balls. When you negate gravity without accounting for fluid dynamics, you create some interesting effects. We appear to be oscillating uncontrollably, a Cathani scientist noted, trying to maintain their professional demeanor while ricocheting off the submarine's hull. That's one way to put it, Dr. Kumar chuckled, adjusting the sonar to better track their erratic movements. Another would be playing pinball with physics. The deep-sea lesson was followed by what Patel called gravitational wave appreciation at CERN's particle accelerator. The Cathani were initially thrilled, believing their technology would finally prove superior in a high-tech environment. Their confidence lasted exactly 3 minutes and 42 seconds. Perhaps, a junior Cathani researcher suggested, while helping to contain a minor quantum fluctuation caused by their anti-gravity field's interaction with the particle beam, we should stop trying to prove our superiority and start taking notes. The breakthrough moment came during the tornado simulator experiment. Patel had insisted it was crucial for understanding atmospheric dynamics. The Cathani, still smarting from their previous failures, approached this challenge with newfound caution. The goal, Patel explained, standing before the massive wind tunnel, is not to fight the tornado, but to work with it. Think of it as a dance partner rather than an opponent. For once, the Cathani listened. Instead of trying to negate the windstorm's forces, they began studying its patterns. A young Cathani scientist named Zix made the first real breakthrough, using their anti-gravity field to create a harmonic resonance with the tornado's rotation. Look at this, Zix called excitedly, their crystalline form vibrating with discovery. If we match our field frequency to the vortex rotation, we can. They demonstrated a perfect spiral movement through the wind tunnel, riding the air currents like a leaf in the wind. Now you're getting it, Patel smiled, watching as other Cathani began to experiment with similar techniques. It's not about overwhelming natural forces, but understanding and working with them. Even Ambassador Nixis showed signs of changing perspective. During the high-altitude balloon test, instead of trying to maintain their usual rigid anti-gravity bubble, they experimented with flexible field modulation, allowing their crystalline form to adapt to the changing air pressure. Your atmosphere, Nixis admitted, after successfully navigating a complex series of thermal currents, is remarkably sophisticated in its interactions. We may have underestimated the complexity of planetary physics. The most dramatic lesson came at the Large Hadron Collider, where the Cathani learned about quantum gravity interactions. Their attempt to demonstrate superior technology resulted in what Dr. Kumar would later describe in her paper as the most spectacular example of quantum entanglement with karma. Did anyone else's consciousness briefly exist in 7 dimensions? A dazed Cathani physicist asked after their anti-gravity field accidentally intersected with a particle collision. Welcome to quantum physics, Patel replied, helping them recalibrate their destabilized environmental suit. Where even being wrong can teach you something new. As the challenges progressed, something unexpected began to happen. The Cathani started asking questions, real questions, not just rhetorical declarations of superiority. They began to see gravity not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a fundamental force to be understood and respected. It's like discovering we've been speaking a language phonetically without understanding its grammar, Six explained to Dr. Kumar while they analyzed data from their latest experiment. We mastered the technology of gravity manipulation without truly comprehending the poetry of gravitational physics. The final test was approaching, the space station construction challenge, and both species knew it would be the ultimate test of everything they had learned. But already, the dynamic had shifted. This was no longer about proving superiority, it had become a journey of mutual discovery. Perhaps, Nixis mused, watching Earth rotate below them during a preparation session, we came here to teach, only to find ourselves becoming students instead. The best teachers, Patel replied, are those who never stop learning themselves. The International Space Station's new expansion project became the ultimate testing ground for everything the Cathani had learned. As both species prepared for the construction challenge, the atmosphere was notably different from their first encounters. Gone were the boastful declarations of superiority, replaced by thoughtful discussions about orbital mechanics and gravitational assists. The rules are simple, Dr. Patel announced during the pre-mission briefing. Each team will construct identical modules without using anti-gravity technology. You'll have to rely on traditional space construction methods. The horror on the Cathani faces, or what passed for faces on their crystalline forms, was almost comical. But how will we manipulate the components? A junior engineer named Vex asked, their energy tendrils twisting with anxiety. The same way we do, replied Commander Shanti Rangarajan, the veteran astronaut leading the human construction team. With physics, math, and good old-fashioned momentum control. She demonstrated by gracefully pushing off a wall, floating in a perfect arc to catch a floating tablet. The first hour of construction was pure chaos. The Cathani, stripped of their anti-gravity technology, moved through space like newborn colts on ice. One engineer got tangled in their safety tether and spent 15 minutes spinning like a crystalline disco ball before being rescued by an amused human colleague. Remember Newton's third law, Patel called over the radio, watching a Cathani push off a panel too hard and sail into the void. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. But then something remarkable happened. Zix, the young scientist who had shown such insight during the tornado experiment, began studying the human team's movements. Look at how they're using the station's rotation, they observed. They're not fighting the orbital motion, they're incorporating it into their work pattern. The Cathani team started to adapt. Their natural ability to manipulate their crystalline forms, usually used in conjunction with their anti-gravity technology, proved surprisingly useful in zero-gravity environments. They began to move more gracefully, using their energy tendrils to guide and stabilize their movements. The breakthrough came during the installation of a particularly tricky solar panel array. Instead of trying to muscle the massive panel into place, the Cathani team calculated its orbital trajectory and used the station's gravitational field to guide it perfectly into position. "Magnificent," Dr. Kumar exclaimed, monitoring the operation from mission control. "They're not just copying our techniques, they're improving on them." Commander Rangarajan watched as a team of Cathani engineers executed a perfect synchronized movement to secure a communication array. "They've turned it into a dance," she remarked. "Look at how they're using their natural crystalline resonance to dampen vibrations in the structure." Even Ambassador Nixis, who had initially viewed the challenge as beneath their dignity, found themselves absorbed in the elegance of space construction. "There is a certain poetry to it," they admitted, using their energy tendrils to delicately adjust a power coupling. "The interplay of forces, the dance of orbital mechanics." The most impressive moment came when both teams had to coordinate to join their sections together. The humans had their tried-and-true methods, but the Cathani brought their unique perspective. By combining human experience with Cathani insights, they developed a new technique that made the delicate operation almost effortless. "We're creating a harmonic resonance between the modules," Zix explained excitedly. "Using the natural frequency of our crystalline forms to match the structural vibration patterns. It's like conducting an orchestra of gravitational forces." The final connection was made with unprecedented precision. Both modules aligned perfectly, creating a seamless join that even the most experienced engineers agreed was exceptional. As the teams gathered in the new common area for a celebration, the atmosphere was electric with possibility. "You know," Vex mused, performing a perfect zero-G somersault without any technological assistance, "we thought we were masters of space because we could ignore gravity. But you humans, you've become masters by embracing it." Dr. Patel watched as humans and Cathani worked together to install the final interior panels, their movements now a seamless blend of both species' capabilities. "Understanding a force," he said, "is far more powerful than trying to negate it." Commander Rangarajan floated over, her experienced eye evaluating their handiwork. "This is more than just a construction project now, isn't it?" she asked, watching a young human engineer and a Cathani scientist excitedly discuss possibilities for future space station designs. "It's the beginning of something new," Patel agreed. "A true collaboration between our species, built on mutual understanding rather than technological shortcuts." As Earth rotated beneath them, casting alternating patterns of light and shadow through the new module's windows, Ambassador Nixis approached Dr. Patel. Their crystalline form had taken on a subtle new configuration, one that Patel had learned to recognize as humility. "We came here believing we had mastered the fundamental forces of the universe," Nixis said quietly. "But perhaps mastery isn't about control at all. Perhaps it's about understanding, about working in harmony with the forces that shape our reality." The closing ceremony at the United Nations headquarters marked a stark contrast to the Cathani's first arrival. This time, Ambassador Nixis approached the podium by actually walking, their crystalline form catching the light with each deliberate step. Their anti-gravity devices, while still functional, remained conspicuously inactive. Dr. Patel sat in the front row beside Commander Rangarajan and Dr. Kumar, watching as the alien ambassador's energy tendrils swayed with newfound grace, harmonizing with Earth's natural gravitational field rather than fighting against it. "When we first arrived on Earth," Nixis began, their voice resonating through the chamber, "we believed we were bringing liberation from what we saw as the tyranny of gravity." A ripple of amusement passed through both human and Cathani delegates. "We could not have been more wrong, or more right, in an unexpected way." Zix, now leading the Cathani scientific delegation, stepped forward to present their findings. The holographic displays showed side-by-side comparisons of their old anti-gravity technology and their new hybrid approaches developed during the challenges. "By combining our understanding of gravitational manipulation with human insights into fundamental forces, we've achieved something revolutionary," Zix explained, their excitement causing their crystalline form to shimmer. Our new designs are not only more efficient but more elegant. We're not fighting physics anymore, we're dancing with it. The data was compelling. Energy consumption reduced by 60%. Structural stability increased by orders of magnitude. Space travel capabilities expanded beyond their previous limitations. But the most significant changes weren't in the technology, they were in the perspectives of both species. Perhaps, Commander Rangarajan suggested during her presentation, the real breakthrough wasn't in how we build things, but in how we think about them. She displayed footage from the space station construction, showing humans and Cathani moving in perfect synchronization. We've learned to see gravity not as an obstacle to overcome, but as a partner in exploration. As if to demonstrate this new understanding, a team of human and Cathani engineers demonstrated their latest innovation, a construction technique that combined human understanding of orbital mechanics with Cathani crystalline resonance technology. The resulting display of precision and grace drew gasps of appreciation from the assembled delegates. In accordance with our wager, Nixus announced, we will share all our advanced technology with Earth. They paused, energy tendrils forming what humans had learned to recognize as a smile. But we request something in return. The Secretary-General leaned forward. And what would that be? We want to establish a joint physics institute, Nixus replied. Not to teach or to learn, but to discover together. There are forces in this universe that neither of our species fully understands. Perhaps by combining our perspectives, we can unlock new mysteries. Dr. Patel stepped up to the podium at Nixus's invitation. The Cathani have taught us that even being wrong can lead to right outcomes, if we're willing to learn from our mistakes. Their journey from technological arrogance to collaborative understanding mirrors humanity's own ongoing journey in science. The ceremony concluded with an unprecedented display, a group of Cathani children, visiting Earth for the first time, playing with human children in the UN garden. Instead of using anti-gravity technology, they were learning to skip, jump, and swing, discovering the joy of working with gravity rather than against it. You know, Dr. Kumar remarked to Patel as they watched the children play, when you first proposed teaching aliens about gravity through experiential learning, I thought you'd lost your mind. Sometimes, he replied, watching a young Cathani attempt a cartwheel while their human friends cheered them on, the best way to understand something is to fall down a few times first. In the months that followed, the collaboration between humans and Cathani transformed both societies. The Joint Physics Institute, established in multiple locations around Earth and on Cathani orbital stations, became a hub of innovation and discovery. Research teams composed of both species made breakthrough after breakthrough, combining Cathani crystalline technology with human ingenuity in ways neither could have achieved alone. But perhaps the most profound change was cultural. The Cathani, once proud of their ability to ignore natural forces, became known for their deep appreciation of universal harmonics. Their cities, once built in defiance of gravity, were redesigned to work in concert with it, creating structures of breathtaking beauty and efficiency. As for Dr. Patel, he found himself with a new appreciation for teaching. The best students, he often said in his lectures at the Joint Institute, are those who challenge our assumptions. Sometimes it takes an alien perspective to help us see our own world in a new light. On the first anniversary of the Cathani arrival, a new monument was unveiled outside the UN building. It featured a simple metal ball, identical to the one Patel had used in his first lesson, held in perfect balance between human and Cathani hands. The plaque read, "In gravity, we found unity. In learning, we found understanding. In difference, we found strength." Ambassador Nixus, standing beside Patel at the unveiling, gestured to the statue with their energy tendrils. "We came to lift humanity beyond gravity," they mused, but instead, gravity lifted both our species beyond our limitations. "That's the thing about fundamental forces," Patel replied, watching as a new group of human and Cathani students arrived for their first day at the institute. "They have a way of bringing people together, sometimes literally. Above them, the first joint human-Cathani space mission was preparing to launch, its crew using their combined knowledge to reach further into the cosmos than either species had gone before. They carried with them not just advanced technology, but a profound understanding that the greatest discoveries come not from conquering nature's forces, but from learning to dance with them.